The new media show. We're back.
Doing the new media show again.
People are actually going to listen to this junk.
We do it live.
We're live right now.
We'll just do it live.
We're going live. We're going live.
You just can't get enough. The new media show.
Let's go.
Just do it live.
We're going live. We're going live.
Bada bing, bada boom.
The new media show. We do it live.
Just do it live.
We're going live. We're going live. We're going live.
The new media show. I'm like Adam Curry, and you're more like John C. Dvorak.
I think I am Adam Curry, and you're the old curmudgeon.
We do it live. Doing the new media show again.
The new media show.
Technology.
We make it sound so special. Well, Rob, here we are on the new media show, and a happy Wednesday to you. How are you?
I'm doing terrific, Todd. It's great to be back doing the show again on StreamYard because you're out of town. So
Yep. One more
fun.
week, and then a remote, and then following that, I'll be back in the studio. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, we're here's whenever you're in a bandwidth challenged area, it can be for normal work and just
Right.
doing everyday things, it's no sweat. But as soon as you start streaming something or going live or doing anything like that, then it just turns into, for a better word, a little bit of chaos. So
Yeah, of course, right. Well, we're all so dependent on our internet connections for everything we do now that it's kind of a little crazy out there. No question about that. So we're right on the cusp of June. So we're already into really into the summer months here. And we've already had a holiday here in the U.S., but a lot of people listening to this outside of the U.S. don't really care about our holidays. But it's great to be back doing the show. There's always interesting things going on in the podcasting space. And I don't know, is there anything that's bubbling with you today, Todd?
I think really what it boils down to is like the summer grind.
Yeah.
So for me in this time of year, you're juggling people's vacations and at the same time keeping project. For me, it's just been the grind of doing everything and putting in the hours. It's kind of crazy because one would think at some point you'd have like a breather, but with business, there's never ever a breather at all.
Right. That's true. Hey, Todd, just to kind of tell you about something that I just started here with the show, and I just activated it, but I've got the Chat GPT mobile app. I don't know if you can see it here, but I started. Can't really see it because
Yeah, I can see. I can see it.
There we go.
Are you actually using it to listen to us?
Yeah, and actually, it's going to create a transcript at the end of the show here, and then we can do some analysis on it, and I've got a little script that I was going to put into it after the show's completed, and it will create our show notes.
Now the question will be, will it have enough memory to take the entire length of the show? Because I believe you are character limited.
Well, the app is limited to, I believe, 110 minutes, I think, is what the app limit is on audio input.
So you're just using the regular app. Are you using any type of plugins with that?
No, just the Chat GPT-4 version. So
yeah, and it can listen to the audio as we're doing it. You've got an audio input into it.
Yeah, so I've got a TRS connection
Yep.
going out of my Rodecaster.
Mm-hmm.
It's running right into the app, and once it's finished, it basically creates a transcript.
Isn't that
right
interesting?
after it's over? And then
I didn't know the app was capable of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't played with the actual app.
Yeah, I was just on a call with Robert Scoble, who's famous for covering the AI scene
Yep.
and the AR scene, because I guess Apple's going to announce their headset coming out here on the 5th is
Mhm.
what the big talk is. So, he shared this because he's been doing this with his conversations with AI startups.
So then
So
he records it, and then he asks to take that text and create a title and a summary show notes.
correct. Correct. Of
Hmm.
the conversation that was had about the new app or the startup company or whatever, to create a summary. I mean, you can make all sorts of requests of queries to parse that information. So, right.
Yeah, I see. I wonder if that's possible. It's not. I don't think it's possible on a PC to have it do audio capture that way. I think that's unique to the mobile phone.
Yeah, could be. Could be.
But
I
that
mean,
is how did he know that was available? Or
well, it's right in the app. I mean, it's like all the other social apps have the ability to do like voice calls. So it has, I mean, not all the other AI
oh, it
apps, but
has
I'm
the
talking about all of the
capability
social
actually.
apps.
Uh,
Yes, yeah. So right next to the search query box at the bottom of the app, it's got
yep.
like a little wave file or
Right.
waveform icon. You
Hmm.
just tap on that icon, it pops up a screen that says start recording.
Oh, that is the shizniz right there.
Yep. So you could be doing your show live like we are,
Right.
and at the end of the show, it can auto generate your
Or
show notes.
not even live, just recording your show.
Yeah, right. It doesn't have to be live, but it does help to have the ability to export or play the audio directly in your mobile device.
Yeah,
Right.
because that way you're not having to do you don't have to wait for the transcript to come back.
It's there right at the end of the program. So yeah.
That is, I'm just going to say right now, that's a remarkable find.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's only going to go, what was it, 110 minutes is what I
That's
said.
okay. That's fine. Most shows aren't more than 100, but if we go 90 minutes and
Yeah,
it's
so
able to capture,
yeah.
if it's able to capture all our text and then do a summary of that.
Mm-hmm.
See, because right now I've been thinking, because what I tried to do before, I took
Mm-hmm.
the transcript from this show,
Right.
cut and paste it into ChatGPT, and people are getting tired of us talking about ChatGPT, but and it couldn't take all the text. There was not enough input box.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like really irritated me, because I wanted to do the same thing, but wasn't able to because of the desktop limitation. But lo and behold, now that what's also is going to be cool is because you're logged in to your account, that will save that query. It'll save all that text in a session, and you can manipulate the crap out of it.
Yeah. You can do all sorts of
Mhm.
parsing of that information to output certain things, but I mean, my primary thing was just trying to get you some show notes. And I could also ask it to give the episode a title too, right?
So this is what I do. Well, I already talked about my flow, but the key is to have it do a concise, short summary,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever that is, 1, 2, 3 paragraphs, and then have it give a create a title, an SEO associated title to target the first paragraph.
Right.
So basically, and then ask it to create a show keyword or keywords. Now you have to limit it. You have to tell it what is the show's keywords in 3 words.
Right.
And then you ask it, if you're using Yoast, you say create a Yoast summary related to all the content so far of a maximum of 143 characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, you get, for me, I was getting title, description, keyword, and Yoast summary that all fit into my WordPress lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, really slick. Now I had to edit it,
Right.
and here's the thing, you have to add personalization. So if you ask it to do a summary, then you have to do a personalization in between the beginning and the end, make
Mhm.
sure, run it through Grammarly, all that stuff. But see, this is where my conundrum is. All right, let's say at Blueberry, we go out and we spend 3 months and build all this stuff,
Right.
integrated.
Mhm.
And then something changes, something new comes out. Or
Well,
like you just found
right.
this little thing here. Why would a smart podcaster that wants to use these tools, and maybe some people out there saying that isn't so smart, Todd. Don't get wrapped up around the hocus pocus. Now we have to just remember this is a language model.
Mhm.
Stupidity in, stupidity out.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
It is nothing more than a language model. It knows how to manipulate words. It doesn't do any magic tricks. But if you limit what it uses, if you give it the input of the show and say only, the keyword is only, create a summary from this text only,
Mhm.
then it will create a summary. You can't, I don't believe so far from everything I've seen that you can go out and some of the stuff you ask it. So there's some plugins now that are available in ChatGPT-4. There's some plugins that'll actually go out and reach stuff on the web.
Mhm.
And again, stupidity in, stupidity out. So you have to be really, really careful, and people understand this is purely a language model too, and it's very good at it,
Mhm.
manipulating words and
Yeah.
creating summaries, and it does it remarkably well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm finding it to be fairly precise. I think what's interesting about this is that this is based on our data, right? It's not
right,
based
right,
on
right.
the language model. It's only using the algorithms to process our information,
Well, it's
right? Which
using the
is
language model to read our stuff that we
right.
give it. Yeah.
Right. So we're just another source of data that's inputting into the algorithm that it's working on versus trying to create something new, right? So if we asked it to create some sort of derivative content based on our conversation or some sort of segmented content, or I don't know, I haven't played with the opportunity of maybe asking it to go through, and I know like Capshow does this too, where they'll create like highlights from the show.
Yes. Same thing
I don't
with
know if I can do
Memento.
that. If I can just make a
Yeah.
request to select 3 important discussions in the show as part of the query, but
But I think
right.
the thing too is important to tell it, and I don't see, because it can't hear the audio, it's only seeing the text. It doesn't know there's 2 people. So I think you have to tell it, Rob, that there are 2 people in this discussion, and it's not
good
gonna
point.
get it completely right because it's not. We're giving it audio, but it's putting it down as text. It doesn't know that this is Todd and Rob.
Right.
It's dumb. It thinks it's just, so you almost have to tell it that there are 2 people in this discussion.
Mhm.
And this is one of the things that Momento does that I have been using for social promotion is when it analyzes the audio and does the same thing that you're doing right here. And again,
Mhm.
they have their own model or whatever they've done, is you tell it there's 2 people. But what I've found is still it has a very, very hard time because especially on my tech show, I have specific segments, boom, 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 all the way through.
Mhm.
It still does not know that this is a new segment of the show. This is where we've switched topics.
Mhm.
And to me, it's almost like, can I send it a beep and say I'm changing the segments? Is there some signal I can send it? And I don't, that is not in its. So I
Right.
was like thinking about key phrases. All right, let's move to the next subject. Let's talk about the next topic. Moving on, certain things we would say that we could train it to say, this is where saying those words, every time I say that, it
Mhm.
triggers it to know that this is a new segment.
Right.
So
I would imagine when GPT-5 comes out, it's going to be much more native to video as well as audio.
yeah, maybe.
Right. I mean,
Now the
that's what I keep hearing anyway.
the Memento folks say it works better when I play with it with my video feed. They
Mhm.
prefer the video feed than the audio feed, which I find to be interesting in itself. So they're doing
Mhm.
something with the video, some analysis with the video. So it's I know some people are saying, "Oh, this has turned into a goddamn AI show."
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
We faced a little bit of criticism on that. We talk too much about AI on this show.
but I
Um,
think that
yeah.
here's the thing that I'm also been thinking about a lot. Matter of fact, I was on a call today, having a discussion about privacy and podcasting, privacy and transcripts, privacy and AI, privacy and brand safety, and a whole bunch of things in that nature.
Mhm.
And I guess a big topic at the podcast show was AI. Everyone was talking about AI over there. That was, I
Yeah.
guess, the buzzword.
Yeah.
So my concern continues to be, all right, we are here, we're experimenting, we're playing with this, we're having fun. But one of the things that I told my team is, and I think I talked about on this show before, I said, do not put any proprietary information into this system. Don't put
Mhm.
sales data. Don't put a new customer data. Don't put names. Don't put anything that 6 months from now Libsyn can do a AI search and figure out what the hell Blueberry's doing. So
Don't share your trade strategy or something like
right,
that. Right.
because
Right.
are we going to be teaching it about Blueberry? Are we going to be teaching? So this is my concern from a business perspective.
Well, it's
According
a
to their
privacy concern is what it
well,
is,
it's
Todd, at the end of
true.
the day.
Yeah,
Is there
privacy
going to be a version of this that you can do private queries that won't be part of the collective?
intellectual property is my biggest concern. So
Right.
here is the trick to this. And according to everything I've read on the terms of service, when you're using the tool like you're using it right now, free
Mhm.
game. They can take everything they want.
Right.
But if you're interacting it through API,
Yeah.
so I've made a task for my team to have an administrative tool that is just used for the team, nothing that would be used for podcasters, an administrative tool that would allow me to send a query according to their terms of service. And again, my legal's got to read through that again. But according to my understanding to the terms of service, you do not train the model when you interact with it via API.
Mhm.
So maybe I can ask it what's 9 times 9.
Right.
Again, but remember, this is a language model.
Right.
And what it's doing is it doesn't know enough to do 9 times 9 equals 81. What it does is it basically looks for some text out there that someone has put 9 times 9 equals 81 and gives me an answer.
Right.
Now, if someone's put 9 times 9 equals 82 somewhere, maybe it'll
Well,
give me the answer of 82.
right.
So
Right.
it's not, it's
I think it's
again,
smarter than that, probably.
well,
Right.
but it's looking at language, it's looking at data that's out there, and this is why it's dangerous. This is why people think this
Right.
thing. Oh my God, I'm talking to artificial intelligence. Well, no, you're
Right.
not.
Yes, we got a comment from Harold Gilchrist, who said, he does this same thing that we're doing with AI and transcripts, right? He says he does it all the time. Don't listen to any shows on YouTube or podcasts anymore unless main points are outputted by GPT that look interesting. So
So what does that mean?
I think he's just looking for shows that have good show notes that look like they're being outputted by the AI platform here.
So he wants to see good show
Yeah.
notes outputted by. Oh, that's interesting.
And then he also posted, so when you copy and paste a transcript from the platform. He says here, YouTube,
Oh, you
you
chunk it.
in April. It's
Oh,
going to be
you chunk it in at 10 minutes at a time.
right.
So Harold, but what Rob is doing right now is he's using the app, the phone app. Hold it up again and show Harold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And he's
it's
using
the official app for
and
Chat
he's doing it
GPT.
right, and it'll record for 110 minutes straight.
Yeah, you
You
can
don't
see
have to
that
chunk anything
that
in.
circle going in and out. That's the movement of the voice that's going into the app.
So you don't have to chunk it in 10 minutes at a time.
Nope.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But it did just make me realize, just gave me an idea. So, it's interesting.
Yes, and Harmony said
The shizniz.
the shizniz is what this is. Cool. Coolness.
That is the shizniz, what you have just figured out. And thanks to Robert for letting us know, because
Mr. Scoble. Yeah.
I have a TRS in my bag with me. The question is, do I have another cable?
Right.
So yeah, that's we will let you know next week how it went.
Well, Todd, I'll just plan on sending you the output from this.
Yeah,
in
but
email.
the challenge is I may have. But here's a problem: you're going to get the output, and I'll take the output, but you've got it in one shot, or one shot. Whereas, as Harold says, you have to take chunks, put them in chunks,
Mm-hmm.
and then
I see what you're saying.
yeah,
Okay.
because you can't cut and paste enough text.
Okay.
But if you got this in one long query,
Do you happen to know what the character limit is or the word limit?
I don't, but we're this is a great experiment. But winner chicken dinner on this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like feeling all frosty here.
Wow, it doesn't take much to get you frosty.
No, not at all. But so I think this is that's a good discovery. And maybe what I'm going to try to do next is play with accessibility tools and see if I can get ChatGPT in the desktop form to take an input with accessibility tools, because that might be a way around the limitation of the desktop app of having to type. So, because technically the app has to be accessible.
So I posted on Twitter a couple of comments. I don't know if you've seen the threads that have been bouncing around between James Cridlin, myself, even a few others, like Mark Asquith and some of those, about a couple of topics that are bouncing around. One is, what's with the announcement. I think maybe we talked about this a little bit last week around YouTube, right?
Yeah.
James's position is that we should, as an industry, not really, and I think you would probably agree with this, not really fully embrace what YouTube is doing as an industry, because what they're trying to do is,
I've already said, right, change the space.
Well, it has.
Are you there?
That's what he's worried about too, is that YouTube has the potential. Now, currently it's been a relative failure, really. I mean, it hasn't really gotten traction
so far.
Yeah. And there's been years of this with YouTube playing this game of trying to align with podcasting, and it just hasn't worked, right? Now, granted, they are making inroads, right? They're making changes to the platform. They're trying to be more thought of, and they've created a certain amount of hype, right, around what they're doing, and people are getting excited about it. And there's a few others in the industry that are feeling that there's maybe a fair chance that YouTube could get it right at some point. It took Spotify a couple of years to get it right too, right? I would say that they still haven't got it right, but I would say that they've made some significant progress in embracing podcasting, even though they kind of have their own model, right? But there is a danger, I suppose, of YouTube getting too big in podcasting, that it starts to cause a problem for the rest of us, because it causes a problem based on a lot of the revenue models that are happening with podcasting right now around programmatic and dynamic ad insertion, just like we talked about last week. And as an industry, how do we want to react to YouTube? Do we want to embrace them, or do we want to, ignore them?
Well, a podcaster said, "Well, why wouldn't I want myself to be on YouTube?" That's what he said to me.
Right.
And I said, "It's your choice. If you want
It's
to
the
be
same
on
thing with
YouTube,
Spotify, right? There was a lot of people that had that
yep.
thought when Spotify
If you want
was
to be
getting
over
into
there,
it.
great." I said, "But if you want to build something unique on YouTube, have a YouTube channel, flag it as a podcast, and build a YouTube channel." We
Well,
have
that's
we have a YouTube channel here. It's
yeah.
so to me, it's the difference is here. They are putting, and I'm kind of glad, because I have never really wanted to have to do this. We did it for a while, but YouTube kept changing the API every 3 months, and we have to go back and rework the platform, where we were sending audio over to YouTube as an M4A, did the conversion, all that work. We were doing that for customers, and the problem was the maintainability.
Mhm.
I was spending, dev time a week every 2 or 3 months making a change, because YouTube kept updating the API. So I
Right.
really didn't want to have to so that's one of the reasons why we worked with Transistor and some other folks, is basically said, "Listen, you want your YouTube stuff to go in, use them."
Mhm.
So now if they're going to take an RSS feed and they're going to convert the audio into an M4A, and whatever you have in your show is in your show, and that's it, and you can't
Right.
have no ads, that's it. Good for you.
Right.
Go ahead and submit it. I'm not. And I'm not
Right.
going to have documentation on my website. I'm not going to support it as a destination.
Well, it doesn't appear that they're going to be embracing MP3 files.
Oh,
from
no,
what
no,
I've
no. They're
right.
going to take the MP3 and create an
It- it-
M4A
it- well, it's
or
actually
a video
it's
file.
just a video file. Is all
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
is.
yeah. Or
So
MP4 or whatever they support.
really, there's nothing innovative about what they're doing here. It's just maybe they're going more direct versus having it get pushed into their platform via an API connection with a podcast host.
And
I don't see a big difference. I mean, other than, is there ads in there or not? Right.
And meanwhile, Spotify is not going to pay podcasters unless you're part of a big network and have a big show. They say, "Thank you for your content. Thank you very much. Now go pack sand." At least they let your audio be passed through, so you can monetize everything that goes in there on your own, so you don't have that challenge of losing revenue, at least with Spotify.
Yeah. So what is going on here, you think, Todd, with so the She Podcast Live show, the in-person event got canceled, and that got converted into, and I think we talked about it last week as well, but I've subsequently it's been announced that I guess the International Women's Podcast Festival also got canceled.
So that is, I think, that event, and they have an awards for women in the UK. Don't quote me on this, but I believe they may be run by the same lady.
The awards as well as the festival. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. And if I'm wrong, forgive me, but I think they're run by the same woman over there. And we have wrote a check every year for the awards, for the National Women's Podcast Awards or something to that effect. But I don't ever remember getting a prospectus for the festival. Now, the challenge with festivals, and I think you know this too, is these are where they bring in 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 podcasters, and they do podcasts live
Hmm.
That's what most festivals in the United States has been compared to a conference.
Right.
So I didn't know. I'll be honest with you, I really didn't know about the international because I was confused too because I thought it was all really kind of scrambled there for a little bit. But with both events being canceled, um, you
Yeah. It's a difficult situation out
we
there. It's difficult for events right now. I think
we
that's the takeaway.
but we talked about it at the end of the show last show,
Yeah, we did.
and it really is. I need to be able to in order for me, I'll just say it here again in case you didn't listen all the way to the end of the last show.
Hmm.
If your event's going to have 500 people at it, you cannot price sponsorships as if it was going to have 3,000 people.
Right.
Just can't do it.
Hmm.
If we intended, I have a mandate by my company. We have a spreadsheet that we fill out of. It's basically if we're going to sponsor an event, it goes into the spreadsheet. If
Right.
we're going to fly there, flying costs go in there. If we're going to have a booth, the booth costs go in there. Everything we're going to price everything out, and we're going to
Right.
find out what our bottom line is to attend that event. And we
Hmm.
get it, probably within $200-300 of total cost because we've been doing these enough. And then we input the number of people that are going to attend the event.
Right.
And then we look at that as what is our cost to reach, what is it, how much, and we get some social benefit and some of that stuff. But what is I don't want to call it a cost per acquisition because that's not even the true word, but what is my cost to reach each of those attendees?
Right.
And if I'm going to be just a keychain sponsor, or if I'm going to give T-shirts out, or what is the intrinsic value of that, and then what is the goodwill value? How much goodwill
Hmm.
do you gain by sponsoring the event and
Yeah.
waving the flag and saying, "Hey, we're in business and we're supporting the event." I have a number I have to meet. I can't go over a certain
Sure.
dollar amount per person because I'll
Right.
never recoup.
Right. They Okay. So you were mentioning in awards. I believe probably maybe what you were thinking of was the Independent Podcast Awards. I don't know if you saw that. It was,
No, this one's specifically for women in the
oh,
UK.
okay. Okay. So this is another event then.
But anyway, so going back to the cost, it's just, if I'm a Spotify or and just you can write a check, big check, I heart,
Hmm.
where they really don't do this type of cost analysis. So yeah, we'll do it. We'll support. But for a small company, it really, I can't sponsor I can't be even at the price to do Podcast Movement now at their one of their lower tiers is outside of my range
Hmm.
because in the end, okay, what do I do with that? Let's say that let's say I spend $5,000 or $6,000 on sponsorships, which usually that's probably about the min is $5,000 and or 2,500. I could use that event money to go to another event.
Right.
I
Yeah.
can go to another event with the
Mhm.
same amount of cash and reach a whole new audience. Because most podcasting events for a podcast, okay, 80% of the people that go to Podcast Movement are already podcasters. I'm
Mhm.
a podcast hosting company. So guess
Right.
what? They're not going to buy
Right.
my service. They already have a service.
Yeah. So you have
So
to go to events that don't have a bunch of podcasters
that's
going
right.
to.
And
Right.
that's what we're doing. We're going to events that don't have a bunch of podcasters that
Right.
will create a good ROI. And and we go to Podcast Movement because we have to, because we got to be there. We wave the flag. Hey, we're still in business. How you doing?
Mhm.
So and I get my budget scrutinized heavily
Mm-hmm.
NAB is probably on the chopping block for next year. We don't know if we're going to go back to NAB.
Mm-hmm.
So the attendance was great, but in the end, how many new customers did I get?
Right.
And
I
that's
did
what it
notice.
boils down to.
Yeah. I did notice that Odyssey is selling radio.com as a domain name
Right.
because they had moved from radio.com to Odyssey. And take a while to guess what they're selling it for.
$3 million.
2.5.
Never get it.
They actually had to withdraw the auction because I guess they didn't get any bidders.
Of course. Why? Who's gonna? What's the use of that?
Who's going to
domain
buy radio.com? There's a reason why Odyssey dropped the name too, right?
Right.
So anyway, Todd, I also saw that you guys launched, I guess, accomplishments.
It's a badge
right.
achievement system.
Right. It's a
So
badge achievement, right?
So I think we have. I have to look. I think we have a total of. Of course, I'm probably going to kill my internet here. Let's see, how many did we do? It's kind of fun.
Monetized,
we did 6, 9, 13. Mm-hmm. We did 15 badges. So we did one, it's about like one of them is called Global Reach.
Mm-hmm.
And in your stats, if you reach 5 countries, you get a minimum one. If you reach 5, 10, 15, 25, 50, 100, 150 plus countries, you'll get a Global Reach badge. And basically, they anchor up based upon number of years, number of episodes, number of listens, those types of things. And then there's some stuff tied to some of our services. So basically, if you create a quick links page, you get a quick links badge. So it's partly achievement, and some of it is also a little bit of education. Say, hey, you could be using this part of the service that you're not. But again, and we're going to also come out with an incentive program as well. So we're just waiting. Maybe have an announcement on that in a couple of weeks. But it's basically this. And we're just trying to make it fun for the podcasters to have something they can show off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess Buzzsprout and Asha both launched AI tools, along with their publishing platform. It's probably very similar, just building titles, descriptions, chapter markers, and transcripts. Kind of like what I can do for, in the ChatGPT app right here. So
exactly. This is going back to my challenge.
Right.
Do I bake something in that someone's going to, and I'm going to be able to charge for it because they can just use this in their, they can just use it on ChatGPT. Well, some people have free accounts.
I don't know that this capability is part of the free plan. I have
Probably
a
not.
pro plan is what I have.
Yeah, me too. The $20 plan, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
there's I came across a slide that looks like that lists all of the companies in podcasting that are supporting AI. So I can actually show this. Let's see. I don't know if I can extras share screen. Not quite sure if this is gonna. Okay, here it is. I was going to show this screen. It's a screenshot of. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it
very well there. Oops, what happened?
Yeah, I can see it. It's up there.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know what. Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't talk about any podcast hosts yet. It just talks about third-party companies that have stuff.
Right.
So here's a challenge with Jasper. I played with Jasper quite a bit. It's very, very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
$100 a month is Jasper.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what else?
So we have, what's the other one here? There's all sorts of ones in here. What ones that I hadn't even heard of before.
Me too. You have to send me the link to that slide.
Yeah. So there's music, images, content generation, and that's one of the challenges with the development of this AI technology, and is knowing what companies are doing what. And is this even a complete listing of
And
all the companies? I don't think it is.
and some of it's half baked.
Right.
And that's my challenge. Is some of it is
It's just not that good yet.
it's not that good. They're
Right.
early, like Dale E doing graphic stuff. One of my friends said, I've had great success with Dale E. And it's in creating creating images for each show. And I'm like, really? And he's talking about how he does it and this and that. And he showed me some of his art. And I'm like, oh man, that was fantastic. It looks great. Great show art. I try it and I end up with something goofy. Just it looks like something that it got splattered on the wall. It does not look like anything I would ever. So maybe I just don't have the artistic touch to tell it how to, draw album art. So who knows? Someone needs to. Maybe I have my buddy write a user's guide to making podcast album art with DALL-E. Oh, I think we lost Rob. That's not good. Ruh-roh. So I'm still here. Oh, that's wild. Well, we'll see. We'll see if Rob makes his way back into the show. It might be a short show. I'm the one that's bandwidth challenged. So I don't know. I will see where this goes. But again, half the stuff I believe is really kind of half baked, and I just don't think that it'll get better with time. But again, it's a language model, and it uses language, and it's not some secret, artificial intelligence is talking to you. And for the first time I've done in entire time I've been podcasting, last 2 episodes, I've done standing up. I'm standing up on a counter at the place that I'm staying at. Here comes Rob. Okay, you're back, Rob. I was worried I was going to have to continue the rest of the show without you.
I closed the screen share and the app crashed for me here, but it looks like we saved it here.
We're still here, so
that's
good.
I was
maybe
just
not use that feature. Yeah, maybe not use that feature very much.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, that might be the right decision. Right.
Zach says, "Is there an AI tool you actually use your content creation right? The tool, Zach, that I'm using for social promotion is Memento.fm. That's the one I'm trying. There's a Cap Show is out there that does some of this. There's some other folks. I kind of like the Memento team and what they're doing, just because of their templates. But I'm using it for social promotion. Everything else I'm just doing in ChatGPT at this point. Yeah.
Well, you should be able to do pretty much everything. It's just knowing how to do a search
how to get
query.
the output, or how to get and you're not going to get a video short using ChatGPT.
Right. Not yet, anyway.
No, not yet. Yeah.
And I think that day is probably coming, but
probably. Yeah.
It's not here yet.
But again, the video short is purely done, and this is another thing we have to remember. It doesn't care about the video. It's just listening to the voice. And it's determining via the language model.
Right.
That, okay, here's what I think the segment is. And then you have to have the tool to, be able to say, okay, the segment really started here and it really ended here.
Right.
And then the rest of it's just programming to make it cool to look on a template. None of it comes close to my standards. And really what it is, and again, I think that it's I don't know if it's saving me time,
Hmm.
but it definitely is giving me some richer show notes.
Hmm.
I'm pretty good. GNC had really rich show notes, but the New Media Show never's had really rich show notes
No,
just
it
because it's a
hasn't.
matter of time. No, I've done a sentence or two, but you can tell the episodes that I've done rich show notes on because
Hmm.
the show notes are about, like a whole, like 2 paragraphs worth. So
Yeah.
very easy to see where I've been playing with something. By the way, we are lit and live today. We are streaming the show all over the place. If you're not listening on a new podcasting app at podcastapps.com, go grab one. You can actually watch the show while we're live on one of those podcasting apps, and you can boost us as well. And I don't have the boost loaded. If anyone's been sending boost, then I'm remiss in reading our booster talking here, but I just don't have enough screens. That's part of it.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, so we have Podcast Movement that's coming up here in August. And I haven't heard if we're going to be doing this show live at the event yet. I did pitch it. So we shall see on that if we get accepted into that. And I don't think you're speaking at this year's event either at this
I have
point,
not.
right?
I did not apply. No, not to speak at Podcast Movement.
Yeah.
There's the boost sound. So
Oh, it came through.
yeah. So Brian said content monitoring equals insatiable power of fear turned into money yet again, and he sent 1,700 sats. Anyway, so that was a week or more ago that we got that boost, and a few others have come in as well. So I will be able to watch the boost grant when anyone comes in with a podcasting 2.0 Satoshi boost.
Yeah, and the interest in that topic that we had talked about, I believe it was, what was it, last week's episode or the week before, about the content moderation coming into podcasting via the advertising market. So if you want to hear more about that topic, where we talk about brand safety and suitability impacts on podcasting as it relates to content moderation, that, go back and check on, an
Yeah.
older episode.
Yeah,
of the
2
show.
episodes ago, I believe.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I did post, Todd, or I sent you an email, the video version of our New Media Show panel at Evolutions Podcast
yeah.
Movement.
So part of my bandwidth limitations, we will
with
try
video.
to get that up, including last week's show. We don't have the video up from last week's show either. So
Right.
I'm going to work with Rob, and if you know how to use FTP, Rob, you'll be able to upload the video.
Oh, I used to use FTP all the time.
So easy,
yeah.
easy peasy then.
That's actually how I published my episodes for many, many years. So
Yeah,
FTP.
when you have a big file, it's just easier to FTP it up and drop it in. But you can't have an 8 gig file going into a podcast feed. That will not work.
That won't work? Wow. Okay.
No.
People won't like to download that into their mobile
they
phones. Is that what
they
you're
won't
saying?
they won't download it. Not without massive complaint. So
Right. Yeah, exactly. So anything else you can think of, Todd?
well,
Or-
I was just wondering though. You said you were having some other social discussions. Was it primarily around the YouTube thing? That was where the most.
yeah,
of
it
the
was mainly
discussion going?
around the YouTube thing, and then just the whole kind of information on online. There was a discussion that was started between myself and a few other people, and Adam Curry too.
Oh,
Yeah, 'cause
really? On what?
I don't know if you saw, but Adam Curry did an appearance on the Glenn Beck show. I don't know if you
Oh,
saw
I
this
heard
or
that.
not.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
what are people all now haters on Adam Curry because he went on the Glenn Beck show or what?
No, well, I don't know about that, but it was this whole controversy about what's happening with our our world and the changes that are happening, and
Oh,
he came out as a Christian. I don't know if you saw this or not.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's come out as a he's talked about it. He does a show with his wife, Corinne the Keeper, and I believe she is the one that has brought
Helped
him.
him.
Brought him into his, I guess, I don't know what you want to say, salvation, whatever it may be, however you want to term that. But so, when you
Yeah.
start talking religion, and a lot of people get weirded out, but
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of that kind of talk here lately too. I think as the world kind of spins a little bit weird right now, I think a lot of people are reconsidering their position on that.
well, I think I think it's well known and it's well publicized that a lot of people don't go to church anymore, and that's just the way the society has changed.
Yeah.
And so you had for folks that in the media space, usually people don't talk about their values that way, and they
Right.
leave the politics. What do you don't bring to a social, or you don't bring politics, religion, and sexual talk to a conversation. Those are like the 3 taboo topics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so for a media person to declare, that's a big thing, and very brave of Adam to do so. So
Right. That is very true. Yeah.
but so what else is, so was that the main thing people are talking about? Is it was just because he'd become a Christian, and that was what the discussion was?
Yeah, it was just about, trust issues. Not that much about podcasting or anything like that. It was just mainly kind of broader issues around, there was some news that came out about how the world is a little bit kind of out of whack right now, and people, and this gets back to a little bit of the topics of the show that I'm doing now called Trust Factor.
Right.
Is just these elements of the eroding trust in our institutions and our government and our leaders and all this stuff that you can't really trust. And this is also kind of goes into the area of discussion around artificial intelligence too. There's a lot of concern around AI weaponizing information against each other and ramping up large numbers of bots and starting false narratives and doing things like that. And I'm equally concerned about that having an impact on podcasting at some point too. You think about the power of AI to generate content, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could we get into a situation where there's a bunch of new shows that an AI platform just launches and puts out there, and it's just full of, scandalous stuff, and it spins people against each other, and there's just a lot of abuses that podcasting, or not podcasting, but AI could bring to the market because, let's be honest about it. There's good uses for technology, and then there's bad uses for technology. And oftentimes, it goes both ways.
Well, there's already been use cases where they've captured children's or even young adults' voices and stuff that they posted on social, and bad actors have taken that audio and created a voice print for that individual, and then they use that against a parent in a phone call.
Right.
So, and the schemes will abound where you think you're talking to your kid and you're actually talking to a bot. So I think that, parents will be wise to have some sort of, I think we talked about this before. Parents would be wise to have some sort of safe word that they would use that only was shared amongst each other.
Right.
That if I say, hey, give me your safe word, and you can't tell me that it's alphabet soup,
Right.
I know it's not you.
Right.
So, it's these kinds of things that are, as adults, we're going to have to start. Because I remember before I got an email from a friend of mine said, hey, Todd, I'm da 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 da, and it came from his email address, and someone had spoofed his email and was asking me to get some money to help him. He was, stuck somewhere, and it wasn't out of the ordinary that this individual might have not asked me for money in the past. So I was like, really, again?
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, and so, almost got me, but that little tingly sense came and said, yeah, let me call you. Oh, my cell phone's not working. I'm like, well, how are you communicating with me? So,
Yeah. Because I mean, how can you?
uh,
I mean, as you look forward, you know, a voice clone could be made very easily from all the content. I mean, both of us are
oh my, oh my God,
long-standing
thousands of
podcasters that
hours.
made
Yeah.
right,
Yeah. Thousands of
and
hours.
they could easily, or some platform, or some evil creator of some sort, or somebody that's managing an AI platform could voice clone each one of us
Or
and
some, or
cause all
some,
sorts of problems.
I continue to say the first time I hear an ad that addresses me by name,
Mhm.
or some bad actor on some big platform decides to use my voice or another podcaster's voice to do a host read ad that I'm not going to get paid for.
Right. Yeah. There's always a risk of that. Right.
Um, I don't think that'll happen. I think that would be completely scandalous. But can you imagine all of a sudden you're listening to yourself on a different platform and you hear an ad being run that you didn't read yourself? That would be interesting.
Todd, I also saw,
So I think consent is the key.
right. I also saw this comment too, is that um, there's, I guess there's some podcasting companies and coaches who don't actually have a podcast that are out there. Um, do you think that they should all have a podcast? What do you think? Should every podcasting company have a podcast? Should every podcast coach have a podcast?
So the dreaded words that my support team hear when they get on a call, I
Mhm.
am the podcast consultant for.
Mhm.
This sends shivers down my team's backs, and they have a back channel in Slack that's called Rant,
Mhm.
and it is 90% of it is filled by us getting support calls by so-called podcast consultants um, that yeah, they are not qualified to be podcast consultants. What they are is audio editors.
Mhm.
They're not podcast consultants. I don't know. I think that you have a lot of people out there that think they know everything about podcasting. I surely don't. But at the same time, um, there is definitely a lot of people out there that have a lack of what really is going on, and specific things like, well, it's Spotify spawned a whole splurge of people that they think that the only place you need to launch a podcast as a podcast consultant is on Spotify. You don't need a website. You don't need all these other, just this whole host of things. And all they're really trying to do is take advantage of people. They're trying to save a little time.
Yeah, I mean, I can accept the argument that a podcast company or a podcast consultant is so busy with helping other people that they don't have time to do their own show. I can certainly understand that position, but I guess it defies logic to think that somebody that's an advocate for podcasting wouldn't have a podcast. So I guess that's a big takeaway, and I think it's a big change for both of our experience in this medium too. Is that there are so many people that don't have a podcast that work professionally in podcasting. So it's also an acknowledgement of a lot of people out there that are working professionally in podcasting, but
Yeah.
have never actually done a podcast themselves.
I know some people running
Mhm.
podcast networks that have never had a podcast that I have to
Yeah, but
handhold on a
yeah.
regular basis that are
Do
running
we think it
networks.
should be just a common sense kind of requirement that I
Rob,
mean,
it's a free world. You and I could wish in one hand and
oh, no, I'm not gonna say force anybody, but should we, you know, advocate for that. I've felt conflicted about that in the past, and I think people, you know, I think I've just assumed that people would have had a podcast if they're going to be advising other people on how to be a podcaster. Because where are they getting their information about how to do it?
Yeah, here's what I basically find is that ultimately it's up to the individual podcaster to vet who he or she is working with
Hmm.
and to make sure that that they do that due diligence. And the cheapest person in the market isn't always the best person maybe you should be working with. At the same time, I haven't had to clean up a lot of, or my support team. Let me say it's not me; it's my support team hasn't had recently to have
Hmm.
to clean up a lot of messes. Usually, this is the mess that's usually made. The podcaster has started a podcast on WordPress. They're using PowerPress. And they've been podcasting for a couple of years, and they're feeling they're not getting the type of traction that they want. They want to take the next level. So
Yeah.
they hire someone, and that person comes in and says, okay, I don't like WordPress. I'm moving you to Squarespace. And they move them to Squarespace. And 2 weeks later, they're calling and say, how come my podcast is dead? It's because they've redirected the website, and the RSS feed is now over at podcast hosting company du jour, and the consultant didn't realize that the podcaster was self-contained and using a best practice, and decided he wanted to go an easy route and put him on some platform, and then use Squarespace because Squarespace is easy. And so these are the types of things we usually run into, and the podcast suffers an extinction event because they terminated their RSS feed without redirecting it.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that'll kill it quick. I would say so. Yeah.
Very quick.
Yeah.
And usually we have methods to recoup that, but it's never pretty.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So this is kind of the go ahead, Doug.
Go ahead. No, just
I say
if you're a podcaster, ask questions.
Right. This is a little bit of the doldrums of the podcasting time of the year, right? There's not a lot of news. One of the other discussions that I had with James Cridlin on Twitter was about how I was seeing in his newsletter just about, and this has been going on actually, I think for most of this week, and I hadn't thought about it at the time, is that I think what big reason for that is the holidays here in the U.S. Everything just kind of
Right.
pretty much stops all this week. There's really not much going on this week in the world in general, and because of the holidays. So people are taking time off and stuff like that. But my observation was that his newsletter is very internationally focused now.
Sure.
There just isn't anything of much in the newsletter. And James and I have already exchanged on this topic. So that was about anything happening in North America around podcasting. And I think that was a reflection of kind of my perception, because when he started, he was covering a lot of North America topics and companies and what was going on in North America. But now I think since the podcast show in London, the newsletter all week has been pretty much outside of the US. There hasn't been anything in the US. And I hadn't thought about the fact that, everybody's on vacation right now. So there's not much news happening in the podcasting space right now.
It'll get worse in July when Europe goes on vacation.
Well, yeah,
in
it's going to
August.
swing the other way, maybe to some degree, but still
right. Yeah,
it's gonna be
because
slow.
May, June, July and here's what, this is what we don't see anymore. And I haven't looked at the stats over at Podcast Index recently, but in years and years ago, June, July, August were always dip months for podcast listenership.
Right.
But now that dip doesn't happen anymore. So it's one of those things where if you're going to take a summer vacation, make sure you're putting some episodes in the can so you don't leave people hanging, because
Right.
people's consumption habits have changed and they're listening to podcasts pretty much steadily year round with a small bump in after December 15th.
Right.
So other than that, or actually after the Christmas because of new devices, but not even that is not even as much anymore. It's
Mhm.
much smaller. It used to be see a marked difference, but now it's not, because kids are getting hand-me-down phones and they just transfer their settings from one device to the other and nothing really changes.
Right. Yeah, because the comment that I made to James about this, he kind of said that he did. Okay, this is his comment on Twitter. It says, "I think that there is more positive movement currently outside of the U.S. More deals, more new ideas are related." And Neil says that probably why there's a difference here is that it's related to the economy, I think, and perhaps
Mm.
a overheating of the podcasting market in the US has led to a short-term pause or slowdown. Right.
I think it's steady. I don't think it's a slowdown.
Well, in comparison to what's happening
Oh, maybe
outside of the
true.
US,
Maybe true.
because he's just constantly talking about mergers and acquisitions and new platforms and new content and stuff happening outside of the US
And
at a
companies I've
much
never heard of before too.
right. Right. So, and I get contacted from companies outside of the US more than I get contacted from companies in the US anymore. So there's definitely a lot more energy. There's a lot more focus. There's a lot more, I guess you could say, some innovation, or to some degree, there's a little bit of copycat stuff going on outside the US too.
Well, that I see a lot, because
Right.
I'm getting contacted by a lot of companies now that I'm like, I'm already integrated. I have that service. So my challenge is how, yeah, maybe you got something cool. Maybe it's incrementally better.
Right.
Let's say it's 10% better, but am I going to am I going to switch gears and put you on as my integrator? So now the challenge really is there's you're right, a lot of copycat companies that are doing a lot of the same thing.
Hmm.
And unless there's a marked difference in your product and something that sits me back in my chair and makes me go, holy crap,
Right.
I'm not going to change horses in the middle of the stream.
Right. And there's been a lot of I think copycatting has been going on even with AI support
Yeah.
with podcasts as well. There's a lot of companies doing very similar activities. So
Yeah.
right.
It's and this is, and again, I don't want to go back and jump on this horse again, but that's one of the reasons why I liked Memento, was specifically for the social promotion. That was what they were doing. It was different
Mm,
than everyone else, was the social piece.
right.
And that I thought was done much better than, show notes and titles and, all this other kind of stuff that I
Hmm.
can get from ChatGPT. So that's why I said, okay, I want to continue working with these folks because of that piece.
Right. Yeah.
And the workflow challenges are interesting too, because if you think about workflow as a podcaster, when someone's brand new, they don't know what tools they want to use. They're going to start, and they're going to they're going to do 2 or 3 different products before they find the one they're comfortable with from a production standpoint. So if I go build a whole big production suite,
Mhm.
okay, who's that for? That's for the person that's maybe in their first 60 or 90 days. After that, they're going to say, I'm not going to use Todd's production suite. I can do much better with Hindenburg or whoever or whatever platform they choose. So really, am I gaining enough advantage by building a production suite when someone is just going to use it for a few episodes, and then they're going to find a tool that they're going to want to use that more fits, because every show's different in how it's made up. We're using StreamYard today. We've used Riverside in the past. We've used Squadcast. We've used a whole bunch of different tools. And then what
Hmm.
happens is as the show evolves, you kind of find a tool that works for whatever particular situation, and that's the one you use. And you can't be everything for everybody.
Right. That's true. So I guess there's Steph Ficato put out a document, looks like, that outlines the details of how to podcast on YouTube. So it doesn't really.
Well, it's nothing. It's a playlist now if you have a YouTube channel.
Right. Yeah, it's nothing special here.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So trying to think anything else going on. I can't think of anything else. Maybe we just need to shut it down early.
Yeah, that'll be
today,
okay
Todd.
too. And we probably talk for another 20 minutes on nothing. But here's the thing: it's we don't want to waste your time, and when news is slow, we'll bounce out and let you move on to your next episode that you're listening to.
Yeah,
but
sounds good to me.
Yeah, so one more remote show, then I'm back in the studio for a couple of months anyway, and then we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, that sounds good, Todd. I hope you've had a good time down there.
Yep, absolutely, and it's been an experience for say. So not to divulging my remote location, but yes,
Right.
I've been remote here for about was it now, almost 3 weeks. So
yeah,
but yeah, getting ready to go back up. I have a whole week in the Columbus office, and that's probably our last hurrah there before we
shut her down. Huh?
Yeah, if anybody needs any furniture, any commercial furniture in the Columbus area, drop me an email. Meanwhile, I'm going to be taking desk and a whole bunch of stuff back to Michigan with me when I go there next week. So see how much stuff I can stuff into my SUV.
Yeah. All right.
All right, everybody. Hey, thanks for being here. I'm Todd at blueberry.com, BLUBRRY.com. That's blueberry without E's because we couldn't afford the E's. And of course, I am at Geek News for my Twitter account. And then on Mastodon, I'm at Geek News at geeknews.chat. Rob?
I'm on Twitter as well at Rob Greenlee. You can find me over there, robgreenlee.com. And if you want to check out my new show called Trust Factor with Rob Greenlee, that's also available as a video show on YouTube, also as a podcast as well. So you can go check that out. And then obviously go back and listen and watch some of the archives of this show because we've done a lot of stuff. And I'm planning on bringing on a guest or two as we move into summer here in the northern hemisphere, and I know our listeners down under are heading towards winter now, so it's an interesting contrast with our listeners.
Someone had a call in Australia the other day, and he was complaining it was getting cold, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah, so great. All right, well, Todd, thank you so much.
Thanks for being here, buddy. We'll see you next time on the New Media Show.
Okay. Bye, everybody.